Fatherhood isn't easy, but in Autismland, it's a journey like no other. Join Mark de Grasse as we explore the highs, lows, and everything in between of raising children on the autism spectrum. With real stories, practical advice, and a touch of humor, we're here to navigate this unique journey together. For dads navigating life on the autism spectrum, you're not alone.
Welcome to Dads in Autismland. I'm your host, Mark de Grasse, and today I'm talking about a subject that you may never have thought about as an autism dad, but there are blessings that actually come with this situation that you find yourself in. So today I'm actually going to talk about kind of things I don't have to worry about. They're kind of a blessing for my autistic son, and a comparison between, the worries you have as a father for a neurotypical son and also, of course, an autistic son. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, Mark de Grasse, I'm the father of two sons, Declan and Damien. Damien is 12, Declan's 11. Damien has severe autism. He's nonverbal and has the mentality of, say, a 2 or 3-year-old child, and kind of the behavioral control of a child that age too. He's super interesting. And my other son, Declan, is neurotypical, but he's also special in his own regards. He's, very gifted in a whole bunch of different ways, but also a perfectionist and has, some things that are, very difficult to handle, just like any neurotypical child growing up in the world, the expectations, and all the different elements. So in this episode, I'm basically going to kind of describe what our life is like raising Damien compared to Declan, and talk about, some of the blessings. And I know as an autistic father or autism father, it's really easy to focus on the challenges. And we talk about that a lot on the show. And if you've listened to the other episodes, you've probably noticed that there's a lot of hardships, a lot of things that autism fathers have to deal with that you say neurotypical parents don't have to deal with. But on the reverse side, there's things that neurotypical parents have to deal with that autism fathers, if you only have autistic children, will never have to deal with. And I'm sure that some of my listeners could attest to that. Now, what I'm going to say is not something you may realize initially. If you're new to autism, or say your kids are younger, you haven't had to deal with some of the more extended issues that come with autism. But it's easy to only focus on the hardships, the diagnosis, the behaviors that are difficult, like, say, violence, or, sleeping habits, or, behavioral issues between, your child and say other children. And again, it's, this is not to diminish any of that, because that is very difficult. And I've had to deal with it as well. So I wouldn't want anybody to undermine it, but there are some blessings. For example, my son Declan is, around girls now. And so the subject comes up with, how are the relationships going to go? You think back as a father to all the relationships you had growing up, maybe some of the less successful ones. and you realize, like, man, that was difficult. The stress you go through, the uncertainty, the changes that occur as you're, going through puberty and entering, those kind of mature ages where you actually start being interested in girls. And, for my autistic son, Damien, like I don't think about that very much. Anything he feels is going to be pretty obvious but completely different than you'd have with a neurotypical son. So it's not something that I stress about. I don't think, and it is, sometimes there is that, feeling of, oh, he's never going to know what it's like to have his own child, or to have a wife, or you go through that kind of traditional sense of love that you have when you do have a relationship with, another person, a sexual relationship with another person. And sometimes that is, makes you feel kind of like, oh, that's so sad. But then you remember some of those times and the heartbreak, and again, just the stress that comes along with all those things where you like somebody, do they like you back? How do I keep this person happy? How do I know if I'm feeling the right thing about this? And what if there's two people I like? I mean, the drama that goes into that situation for a neurotypical person is a ton. It's a ton of stress, a ton of uncertainty, and it's easy to, just say, like, that's just part of life. But for autistic people, and there are some shows that actually talk about, like, I think it's Love on the Spectrum, is something that they've created. It's still completely different. And for my son, who is nonverbal and again has the mentality of, a small child, even though he is 12 and 175 pounds, is completely different. And so, honestly, it's sort of a blessing. I don't have that stress. I don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't get his heart broken like that. And that's kind of a relief, even though my other son is going through that, and it is stressful just to think about and just remind yourself about. So that's just one. You also have the just the personal growth. For Damien, who is going through his own changes, going through puberty, he's not questioning anything. He's not worried about anything. He's not expressing himself because he doesn't know how to handle these emotions. He shows whatever emotion he is having, he is showing. There's no hiding this. It's even because he is kind of sneaky. So he'll, get one over on us and he'll laugh, and he could be, like a form of sarcasm and like a jokester. But yeah, we always know exactly how he's feeling at the moment. So there's never a question in our minds like, oh, he mad? I hope he comes and talks to us because, well, one, he can't talk to us, but two, he's just showing us. There's no charade. There's no internal dialogue that he's not, letting us in on. And in a way, that's a huge blessing, just to understand how another person thinks and feels. And honestly, with all of your relationships as a neurotypical person, you're constantly thinking about that. Even your close friends, your relatives, your spouse, like all of these different people also live their own internal, lives that they may not be sharing with you and may not even have the capacity to share with you. Another thing that comes with being neurotypical is the programming. We don't call it programming, but the societal norms that we've all kind of adopted. If you don't have a lot of introspection, you think that's just you. Like you feel this way because you were taught to feel this way instead of what you should do, which is, do I feel this way because I actually feel this way, or do I feel this way because I was taught to feel this way, or I should feel this way based on things that are normal? And, again, for a lot of autistic people, they don't have this. They don't have that like debate of like, is this really me or is this my programming? And that's, it's a gift in a lot of ways that they don't have to deal with that uncertainty, and with everything that comes along with just questioning, like, who am I really? They don't have to do that. And for my son Damien, like, I think that's a huge benefit, that he just is who he is. And a lot of times what we're trying to do as neurotypical people is grow into the optimal form of ourselves, and instead of just accepting like, this is how I am, and that's the end of the story. I mean, just imagine the amount of the less work you would have to do if that was your life, where you're just like, this is who I am, this is how I feel right now, and this is it. I mean, that's truly living in the moment. So in a lot of ways, I think autistic people are more, in the moment than a neurotypical person might ever be. And again, that's a blessing for them. And as a parent, that's a blessing for us. Like and yes, he does have trouble expressing himself, like in terms of language or what he wants or what he needs. He can't tell us about those things, which is again a challenge. But if you think about it, I mean, it's really incredible, existence to be able to live in that exact opposite world. So whenever you're feeling like, oh my gosh, they're missing out on so much, think of the stuff that you wished you had missed out on. Because there's so many things in my life where I'm like, man, that was so difficult and that was so horrible. And if I had known more at that moment, I would have made the right decision. Imagine none of that was something that you really thought about. So, again, the social expectations, I'm just going to touch on that really quick, are huge. I mean, it's, trying to keep up. That's another thing that your autistic child will never have to think about. Like, how do I keep, and not to say they're all the same, because they're, it's a spectrum, and there are kids, autistic kids and kids of other, mental disabilities that can sense that, like, I'm missing something because I can't do X, Y, or Z. And that is, sad to think about if you are a parent of that. But, the social expectations that are put on neurotypical kids, like, what college am I going to? What job am I going to have? Am I going to make enough money? Am I going to be able to buy all the things that I always wanted, or travel to all the places I ever want to travel to? For my son, he doesn't think about that stuff. He just thinks about, like, hey, do I get to use the laptop for a little bit? Like, that's like the extent of his concerns right now. Hey, can I get in the fridge to get all of the food that I want? That's his concern. And even and even the expectations change, because for my autistic son, like, his achievements are, recently it was him being able to point at food that he wanted, or point at places he wanted to go. He's never been able to do that before. He'd never been able to point somewhere and say, I want to go over there. And now he can. And as autism dad, you're just like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Like, that's incredible. Like, I'm so excited that he now has this ability. Versus my my other son, Declan, is like, when's he gonna hit his first home run, and will he make, the varsity team in high school when he gets there, and will he, get straight A's on everything, and the expectations, that he must feel. Not that we put that pressure on. I mean, actually, well, this is, again, just one of the downsides of being neurotypical, is you're able to put those expectations on yourself, and societally, you're expect to just keep on pushing, keep on getting higher. We're all told to achieve all the blah blah blah. But, again, for autistic kids, they don't have this. They don't have any of it, and their wins, their wins might be the slightest nothing to a neurotypical person, but for an autistic person, it's incredible, and the encouragement that they get, and this is really a testament to the therapists that we work with, that it is those small wins, and the therapist will just be, it's so exciting. He brushed his teeth and washed his hands today without being prompted. Like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. He kept his jacket on for 30 seconds. Like, oh my gosh, yes, making progress. So, for, again, autistic, parents, like, those amazing moments when they're able to achieve something that they never achieved before, and that maybe you didn't even think was possible. One of the first guests on the show, Steve, his son was able to get a job, and his son is nonverbal, severely autistic, and to realize, like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't even know that was a possibility for my son, and to think that somebody else did it, like, and I have zero expectations that my son Damien will ever have a job, but just to think, like, oh, maybe he could one day get a job, and that would be. That would be amazing, but also wouldn't be something I would expect. It would just be like a super duper bonus of something he's able to achieve. And, that's neat too, having those, I'm not gonna say low expectations, but because it's not a low expectation, it's a super high expectation. But it's not an expectation at all. So, it's just topping around in circles, but it's not an expectation. If he can achieve any of those things himself at any point in his life, I will be astoundingly happy. But if he can't, it's not going to affect me anyways. Now, again, going back to the neurotypical thing, oh, will my son, be an executive in a big business, or will he, what will he achieve in college, and all these things? And, you know, you want those. I want those things for my son because I think he deserves them, one, and he wants them. And that's one of my things as a dad. I try to not qualify it, because you do see those dads who have the expectations of their sons, especially in sports. I'm here in Texas, and it's hard to see, because you hope that the kid is on the same page, but a lot of times, like, and not to say that this is something that people do on purpose, but the kids and their parents don't always align on what they are going to achieve. And it leads to a lot of conflict. And even if it's not right now as they're getting older, it could be in the future, or it could be resentment towards the parents in the future. And again, these are just like the neurotypical parenting stuff I'm talking about. But for, again, autistic kids, nope. If he does anything, oh, look, he put on his pants himself today. I would be so excited, like without being asked and laid it out. And well, my son's Damien's tricky because he knows how to do stuff, some stuff that he won't show us he knows how to do, and he'll do it at therapy, and then he'll never do it at home. And I think he takes advantage of us sometimes. So that's not a super advantage, but I think it's a connection piece for him a lot of times. Like he likes to make me do, certain cleanup tasks just because he thinks it's funny, or it's a way to connect. Maybe that's the way he gets attention from me because he can't ask me for attention. He can. He does this. He taps his chest, and that means he wants me to like poke his chest because again, he likes pressure. But there are certain blessings, and again, just moving on to like the growing up. He's never gonna grow up in the traditional sense. I don't worry about him moving out. I don't worry about helping him buy a house or helping him pay for a wedding or helping him raise more children. Like it's not something that we think about. It's this is our situation. We're in it. We love him to death. I will take care of him till the day I die. And that's the end of the story. And honestly, for my other son, Declan, like it's just a big question mark. Like, I don't know. I hope that, we always stay on good terms. And I hope he always wants to come visit us. And I hope he always blah, 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 blah. But he's going to have his own life and he's going to make his own decisions and deal with his own challenges. And it's going to be largely independent of us. Not to say again, not all neurotypical kids are like that, but my son Declan is. He's fiercely independent, and I remember he went to camp for like 2 weeks, or went to camp for a week, and that was like, oh, you have the option to stay for another week, and he didn't bat an eye. He's just like, yep, me. And even when we take him to camp and say, oh, okay, bye, Declan, he's like, later. And he loves us to death too, but he's definitely gonna be on his own because he wants to be, and I'm so proud of him for that too. But then again, as a dad, you're like, oh, I really want to still be involved, but I might not be at some point just because he's grown up, and that's fine. But again, autistic son, don't have to worry about it. He's always going to be here. We're always going to hang out. We recently took him to his first kind of big basketball game at UT, and that was so exciting. Like I didn't think it was possible. Like I thought he would be annoyed because he does like sound, but he also likes to hear his device. I was like, oh, what if it's too noisy? He can't hear his device, gets upset. We got to walk him out of a stadium or something. Like that's going to be a big deal. And he just handled it. And we credit a lot of this with our experience at CTAC, Central Texas Autism Center, because they've really worked on these, kind of standard things you could do. And now we're able to do it. But again, that's another achievement we get to celebrate. Like my son went to a basketball game. Like, yes, this is incredible. We didn't have any conflicts when we went there either, because we do wonder, like, he's kind of nudging the person in front of him. He's upstanding and yelling, even when there's nothing actually going on the court. But now everybody was cool and it was great. So, again, just to wrap this up, think about, if you can, I would do like a victories journal, or just a journal. Journaling is helpful anyways. But yeah, just list these things that, you're thankful for, because it's not all challenge. There are some blessings in there. And just for me, and I didn't talk about this that much, but for my personal development, like Damien's the reason why I'm healthier today than I was 5 years ago, because I knew I was going to have to be around, and not just around, but I was going to have to be strong because he's going to be bigger than me. So in terms of all of my self-development stuff, like it's largely because I know Damien's going to be around and I need to be there for him. And so I need to be strong. I need to be healthy. I need to be mentally sound. I need to be stable. I need to be, I need to be all these things for him. And so, just like another side blessing is I'm way healthier, way happier, way more content with my life than I would have been without him. because it's so easy to get so wrapped up in the more that you never really live right now. And with Damien, it's like I have to. It's just part of our lives. And so, again, make a note of it. Just write it down. And then when you do go through those hard times, at least you can look back and be like, here's why I'm doing this. Here's what this has led to that's good in my life. And when you do that, you'll feel so much better because you can remember, because there are going to be those hard times, and there are going to be that heartbreak that you have for your child. And if you don't think about the good, then you're just living in the hard, and you don't want to do that. And then again, just be it can be hard, but be grateful. This is a huge opportunity. It's a huge responsibility. There's only some people who can handle it, because we never like to talk about that, but there are alternatives to being an autism father. You could leave. You could abandon. And I'm not saying that you should. I definitely don't recommend you do that. But it's always an option. You could disappear if you want to, and you're not, because you're super duper strong and you can handle this, and whatever, bring it on. And I think the more I talk to the autism dads that I see, I'm just like, yeah, you could have done the easy thing and you didn't, and that's so freaking cool. So keep it up, and be thankful that you have that. I am. I think it's huge. It's made me start living a life that I think I always wanted in the back of my head, but I was always so driven by the other junk that I couldn't even see. And so now I'm proud to be an autism dad. I'm proud to be, a father in general. And I think I'm a better person because of it. So if that's not the objective of life, I don't know what is. And I get to help people help people who need it. Which is so cool. So that's it. Again, if you can, share your stories, share what you're grateful for as an autism dad, and tell people about it. I hate pity. No, none of us like that when people are, oh, poor you didn't blah, blah, blah. It's like, what? Poor you got to deal with a bunch of crap. My son loves me. That's the biggest thing I could ever want or wish for in life. And I have that every day. So I'm doing good. Don't worry about me. But yeah, just be grateful. Tell people about it. Write it down. And you'll live a good life. And I hope you do. So autism dads, keep on pushing. We're here for you. And be grateful, because you should be. Your kids are amazing. And it's because of you. So live it up.